In the essence of time, let's kick off and get into today's session. So welcome everyone. We've got an exciting discussion lined up for you all. We'll be delving into Kieser's transition, right? So they've gone from Xero into a new cloud ERP. And in that, we want to cover off why they made the shift, what efficiencies they've gained, and some tips for other businesses like yourselves on how to make that transition. So I'm joined by Dee today, so a big thank you to you for joining us, and we'll delve deep into those conversations shortly. Before we get into the detail, a little bit of housekeeping. We do want to hear from you throughout the session, so there is the chat on the right-hand side. Make sure you put any questions in that you want answered. We'll have some Q&A time at the end, and we'll go through all of that. If you do have any technical issues throughout the session, also add those to the chat and we'll see if we can get someone to resolve those as we go through the presentation. So without further ado, with the introduction, so my name is Bart Wadley. I'm a Senior Solution Architect at Annexa, and I'm joined today by Kieser's CFO, Dianna Butterworth. Dee, do you want to do a quick little intro to yourself?
Yes. Hi, Bart. My name is Dianna Butterworth, and as you know, more commonly known as Dee. I am one of the business partners, the directors, and I'm also the CFO at Kieser Australia, and I've been with the business for about 7 years.
Love it. Thank you very much. So let's just do a couple of introduction slides here to kick things off. So for those who don't know, I work with Annexa, and how we fit into the conversation today is we've been doing systems for over 30 years now. We're one of NetSuite's leading implementation solution partners and system integration providers in region. And it's quite a common use case that we get, that we're approached by businesses that are starting to outgrow their smaller accounting software packages like your Xeros and your MyObs of the world. And they're needing that next level of capability, which could be driven by business growth, or it could just be further complexities in their market segment to really be competitive to take on what challenges across them. From a Oracle NetSuite point of view, which is one of the main products that we'll be talking through today, Oracle NetSuite is a cloud ERP and it unifies business functions across all aspects depending on the industry that's been engaged. So you can see the wheel on the slide there. So a modular-based system that's going to bring financial, CRM, sales operations, manufacturing, supply chain, all into one location. But one of the real sweet spots for Oracle NetSuite are those organizations that are growing. You know, that could be in their local markets, or that could be abroad. So a great fit for those organizations sort of going through those periods. And I guess today, given the story that we're about to hear from, we really wanted to touch on some of the key differences between, you know, the Xero of the world and then more into the NetSuite ERP type of a platform. So if I look at it from like just a few key highlights, there's some real key reasons why people start to do this. So, you know, a multi-entity global business management type approach, we're trying to consolidate entities into one spot. You know, having multiple databases for all different companies can obviously be quite complex and have its own challenges as you go through. From a financial management and a reporting point of view, you know, the smaller systems, they do what they need to do to get out reports. But when you move to that next segment, you do need that more complex financial reporting. You do need specialized financial functions, trying to automate some of the mundane tasks that you might need to be doing across those. And then I think the other one is really the robust integration structure. So, you know, as you grow, you're going to look to the market for some specialist platforms or even some in-house built platforms that are key to your success ongoing. And being with a platform that can, one, handle the growth and the volumes that you might get from that, but then also connect seamlessly so that experience from the end users is seamless. And that's really what you want as an end user at the end of the day. So let's get into the juicy stuff. Let's introduce our friends here at Kieser. So to set the scene today, Dianna, do you want to just do a quick rundown for everyone online and maybe just expand a little bit on the brand journey to date before we get into some of the technical nitty-gritty of the project.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Bart. So Kieser originated back in Switzerland in 1967 when our founder, Werner Kieser, really just discovered the scientific benefits of strength training. So in Europe, they were one of the first companies really to identify the benefits of strength training, and it's all science-backed and research-backed. So we're all about reducing client pain. But we also work with our clients on rehabilitation, so whether that's post-injury or surgery. And really, ultimately, we're helping our clients build strength so that they live a healthier, longer lifestyle. We established our first clinic here in Australia in 2006, and we've grown to over 31 locations Australia-wide. So
very, very impressive. So from a product or a service point of view, what's the focus there?
Yeah, so we're a physiotherapy-led strength training organisation. So we are a little bit different to your sort of standard physio on the road, or and we look like a gym. People always refer to us as a gym, but we're not quite a gym. We combine clinical treatment with individualised strength training programs, really, and it's all delivered in a really medically aligned environment. So if you've ever stepped into a Kieser, there's no mirrors, there's no gym. We wear T-shirts. It's all about really focusing on our health and actually building strength. We are unique in that we do combine that integrated physiotherapy, rehabilitation, and long-term strength training under the one roof. So our goal is to help people recover and keep them strong throughout their life into, their long-term sort of, as they age into their 80s, 90s, and so forth. Our clients typically engage in 2 30-minute strength training sessions a week. That's after they've sort of been through that initial physiotherapy program. And since, launching in 2006, 31 clinics for around 800 staff, and they're super passionate about helping our clients come through that initial sort of physiotherapy journey, but then transitioning into that 2 30-minute sessions of strength training per week. And we see it for life. It's not just something that you do for, 6 months or a year or till you feel better. For us, it's about really just strength training as throughout the ages.
Yeah, love it. So from a revenue channel point of view, obviously there's a lot to digest there, and obviously this impacts financial reporting at the end of the day. What channels sort of get lined up?
Yeah, I think to bring it back to sort of a finance perspective and to put it really simply, we generate a few different forms of income. So for us, it's physiotherapy income. So you can come in and see a physiotherapist. And then there's exercise physiology too. So we work with a lot of clients regarding cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, diabetes. So we do have an exercise physiology channel as well. And then ultimately it's that strength training form of income as well. So you come in, you can either train independently or with an exercise scientist, 1 or 2 sessions a week, ideally 2. So, that's that sort of third form of strength training. If I then start to sort of link it a little bit further as we head into the NetSuite story, we have a group of head office, departments that are essentially generating income too. So, our services are centralized, and we do a lot of things centrally to help our clinics. So there's that sort of franchising income or head office income as well that, we had to take care of as we moved into that sort of system piece. So there's that clinical revenue, but it's also that sort of head office revenue as well that we're generating.
Yeah, love it. And I guess in terms of, having to report on all of that, it's critical that you can understand those different channels. So then, I mentioned Oracle NetSuite, we love growing businesses and we love scale and whatnot. Like where does Kieser sit from a size and complexity point of view there?
Yeah, great question. So when I joined 7 years ago, there were about 13 clinics and I think around roughly sort of 200 staff. And, we started in the physiotherapy rooms in South Melbourne as a head office department. So I think, on any given day, there was probably 5 or 6 of us in head office. 7 years later, we're now 31 clinics, 800 staff. And I think at last count, we were something like 70 people in head office. It's just like bizarre how, fast it's grown over the last 7 years. So it's been a significant period of growth for us over the last 7 years. And we're in every state in Australia and Capital Territory except for WA and the NT at this stage.
That's amazing. And I think anyone online that hasn't seen a big back pain billboard as they've been driving around, probably aren't looking hard enough. I know it certainly comes out for me. So let's go through the tech journey now, and like any good story, let's start at the beginning. Can you paint a bit of a picture of we're on Xero and it's time to upgrade? What happened for you guys?
Yeah. It's been a really interesting journey from us from a tech perspective. When I joined, with the 13 clinics, we had around 15 Xero files that we were running off. And, that seemed quite fine at the time. And I think the business was on Xero for maybe 3 years at that stage. It hadn't actually been long that they had switched over from, I think they were on QuickBooks before that. I'm not entirely sure. So they'd gone already through a sort of tech journey 3 years before I had gotten there. When I I like to come into businesses and just watch for the first little while. I don't like to make change as I move in, but we were growing so fast each year, and I was starting to just add on Xero file after Xero file after Xero file. And not only that, I was adding on resource and resource and resource to just try and keep up with the fast growing nature of that business. And I'll be honest, as I started to sort of move through that first year, I could start to see the cracks that were happening from a finance perspective. We have a custom CRM in the front end system within our clinics and our clients. And that was probably the first crack I started to see, was the data was starting to fail coming into Xero. And I think looking back, it was just purely a volume issue. They were both great systems. I love Xero, don't get me wrong. I think, Xero is an amazing product for small business, but we really started to feel the pain points within Kieser. There was some month ends, and this was probably one of my trigger points, when we actually couldn't rely on the data in Xero because it wasn't actually feeding through. So when you start reporting sales manually and actually just, trying to get journals into the system to make your sales right, you kind of know you've got a problem, or we knew we had a problem. And I think it got to the stage too, like we were 27 files just before we decided to cross over. If anyone asked me for a transaction report across the business, whether it was, hey, Dee, how much did we spend on R&M last year? Or how much are the team spending on learning and development and PD? Our team had to go and log in to 27 different accounting files, download those reports, consolidate them together, and then actually analyze the data. So it just, it got to the point where I thought, I'm putting more Band-Aids in place here than I am solutions. And we really started to lack depth and support for the business around AR, AP, cost center analysis, reporting. It just was getting to the point where I thought, I'm spending more time, and the team is spending more time actually keying in data than they are actually analysing it. So, like I said, just before we moved, we were 27 different accounting files. We were stitched together by some, consolidation tools, and it just was manual, data intensive, labour intensive, and integration was really, really tough. So, yeah.
Crazy. I think it still stands out when we first met, sort of going through some of those conversations, that just the volumes were getting too large. We had reconciliation errors. We had poor staff experience because they were literally just working in errors and spreadsheets trying to resolve problems. And I think that growth is that driver, right, where it sort of stood out to you. So you're at that point, right? You need to make the leap. You need to change. How did we go about selecting a platform, and what was the criteria for you? I know there's some key things from that conversation.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you and I first, met way back before COVID. Like I knew I needed to change, a year into actually joining Kieser. But, as most businesses did during that time, we sort of were in survival mode. We parked the project, and it was like, hey, we've got the healthcare of Australians at the forefront right now, not necessarily, putting in tech solutions. So, so for us, we sort of, at that stage, I reckon when I came to see you, we were only maybe 15 or 16 sort of sites. By the time we reconnected, we were 27, and it was pretty painful at that stage, I'll be honest. I think I did the count for you guys, and we were running something like 1,500 intercompany invoices at that point in time. So, and our bookkeeping team, they were actually keying them, coding them, posting them, paying them off, all 1,500 of them across 27 files. So it was seriously labor intensive. And looking back, I can't actually believe we did that. Like I find it hard to believe I put my team through that, to be honest. So it's kind of crazy how manual that intercompany charging process was, and, the manual entry. So, what did we look for, when we came to you? Our brief was really clear the second time around. We needed to scale. That was definitely number one. We needed to automate, consolidate, and get visibility over the numbers that we didn't have in 27 different files. We needed something that could handle multi-entity structures and multi-clinics across the group, along with multiple head office departments, so that, multi-entity structure was crucial. But it also had to support our internal controls as well. So I didn't, I had a 5-to-1 ratio when it came to a bookkeeper to clinics. I couldn't sustain that as we moved from, 5 clinics of growth every year. I needed a solution that was actually going to support the growth of the business without necessarily putting on headcount each time we opened a site. So, I could roll off the list: a central platform for the entire organisation to live and breathe in and get that analysis. It needed to be cloud-based, real-time, live, active, bank recs daily, and just something that was customizable to our business, because, every business is unique, but we just had those extra sort of, complexities for us that we needed to solve. So as much as I loved Xero, and we really could have gone a few more years like on Xero, and a lot of consultants said to me, you can get to 100 sites if you want to on Xero. But for me, I felt like that I needed to fix the core of the problem, not actually band-aid and sort of tape around it. So it was a no-brainer for us to start to look elsewhere.
Yeah. And I think that it does make sense. Like, Xero is a great platform. It's cloud-based. And then when they're looking at a platform like Oracle NetSuite, they sort of understand the world of cloud, if they will, and the idea of upgrades and whatnot. So it is a natural transition that we're finding across the market. So, we've spoken about the Xero switch, the Oracle NetSuite. What does the rest of the tech stack look like, right? So there's more to it than just Oracle NetSuite doing its thing.
Yeah, 100%. So NetSuite's obviously the core. It's the center of everything that we do and where we live day to day. It's the first system I log into in the morning is NetSuite and my dashboard. We've got a custom CRM logic at the front end. So that takes care of all of our patient and client data and appointments. Got NetSuite in the middle that looks after all 31 clinics and our 20 head office departments. So it's all in one world. We use Soligo to connect the front and the back. And we've got Employment Hero that sits off to the side with HR and payroll. We've got the inbuilt functionality of Zone & Co, which is doing all the reading of our accounts payable invoices, Expense Me for credit cards and expense claim. And we've recently, just in the last 12 months, expanded the NetSuite platform to include enterprise performance management, which includes 2 modules for us: NetSuite Planning and Budgeting and NetSuite Account Reconciliation. So we've got some really great products in there, and F-Shore's off to the side too, because cybercrime and cybersecurity is really important for us as well. So, we use F-Shore to make sure we're paying the right people at the right time.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess just to summarize that up a little bit, so we've got Oracle NetSuite in the middle. It's our big source of truth. It's handling all our clinics. We've got Zone as a little enhancement sitting inside the NetSuite box there, if you will. And we've got Soligo as our middleware layer. So that's our glue, I guess, out to any of the other platforms. And I guess, specifically for your industry, the Logic Plus is such a critical system to be able to run the clinics and the CRM and the operations at clinics. So that's cool. Like, really love it.
Yeah.
So what about just key benefits, right? So you've put the stack in there. If you were to just list through benefits, what does that look like?
Yeah. So I think, we've got the tech stack. I think the first benefit we saw was we no longer have sync issues. So, that data that we're sending down from our front end system is in our hands. So, Nat Ryan is as our project manager and our fin controller, and she's got her hands on Soligo. So if anything doesn't come in overnight, she's got full visibility over why, and is able to troubleshoot that herself. So we don't have sync issues anymore, and we don't rely on the tech team for those sync issues either. We've actually can fix that in-house within finance. The key benefit of NetSuite has been the centralization of everything in one world. So we've got data consistency, we've got accuracy, and we've got one system which is literally housing all of our financial data. So master chart of accounts, master suppliers, master accounts receivable. Previously we had 27 different supplier lists, which you can imagine how messy that gets across. No matter how good your processes are, it gets really messy. We've got real-time performance data at our hands. Version controls, really important for us. So we've got that within NSPB. We have credibility within the business too. So, like I said, there was a little bit of data integrity that was starting to break with Xero, whereas now when we do something, we do it once, but it's the same process for all 31 clinics. So I don't have regional leaders going, why is it this in this clinic and why is it this in that? And to be honest, the leaders have got access to that system. So they're able to just jump in and have a look at their own profit and loss and budgets and budget versus actual and make real data-driven decisions in real time. And I think that's probably been the key thing for us. It's been a massive time saver from a finance team perspective. So like I said, they're no longer keying in 1,500 invoices a month and posting them off and paying them off. That all just happens seamlessly. As we worked with some scripts with you guys and managed to just build in a lot of that automation. I like to spook about this because I've never done it before, but we got our year-end results out within 3 days. So our team is still celebrating that 2 months later because that's a pretty big deal for us. I'll be honest, I've never done that in my 30 years in finance. So we can just knock out results within 3 working days of month end. And that in the hands of a leader is super powerful because they can then just run for the rest of the month and make some business decisions off the back of that. The team have gone from, freeing up. I used to have a 5-to-1 ratio with bookkeeper to clinics. It's now 14-to-1. So one bookkeeper is able to look after 14 clinics. So really from a time management and a savings point of view, that's been a big one too. I think off the back of that, the team, I'll probably speak on behalf of the team, I think there's a bit more job satisfaction there. Finance can be a pretty boring role. And when you're doing the same
One up
thing.
on payroll, technically.
What's that?
One up on payroll.
One up on payroll, yeah. There's real repetitiveness in bookkeeping, right? And in finance, and it can feel like Groundhog Day some days when you're doing the same thing day in, day out. So I think the team have got a bit more job satisfaction in the sense that, they're not doing just the same thing day in, day out. Sophie and Ruby, who are part of our bookkeeping team, they're analysing labour and going, I think this looks a bit wrong this month and, we're off budget by X. So they themselves have got the analytics in their own hands. And I think that's super powerful when you have your whole team really involved in being analysts rather than just data entry, because they're all picking up the sort of statistics that we need to. So it's really changed the way finance has shown up at Kieser, I'll be brutally honest. And our team are really, really empowered with information to just help the business make decisions.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let me fire some other questions at you. I just want to dive into a couple of those, right? So
sure.
I think AI, probably something that, we've spoken about offline and, it's quite a buzzword at the moment. Like, where are you seeing AI useful sort of, in this tech stack or just across clinics in general? Like what's that mean to Kieser?
Yeah, great question. I think, at the moment in today's, professional world as a CFO, we all feel like maybe we're missing out or falling behind or, gosh, what am I not up to speed with? Like everyone, we're curious. So we're not necessarily jumping knee deep into AI. We're already using it in small capacities within our team. So Zone & Co is a great example. The team don't key accounts payable invoices into the system anymore. Zone & Co is reading all of that information on an invoice, pre-populating it, and the team are literally just checking it and clicking it off. So, I always say to my team, you're already using parts of AI functionality. You just don't call it AI. So don't try and get caught up in the buzzwords of it all. Just think about the practicalities of how we use it every day. We are using the embedded functionality within NetSuite. They're obviously at the forefront of driving AI changes, and we like the fact that it's built into the program. So we're really exploring AI within NetSuite and its ecosystem, and seeing how that can help us drive more efficiencies. Do I think it's, going to completely and utterly change the world? Well, maybe, but for now, I think it's actually about giving teams just another tool like email, like the internet, and like your Teams and all that kind of stuff to help you be more efficient. So I think, like I said, we are playing with it. We're not making any drastic changes in the way that we work at the moment. And we're just going to really wait and see what kind of fundamental developments it has for finance teams.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, that was a really good point around, some of you are just using AI and you don't really call it AI. It's just sort of part of the platform and it's just happening. So like NetSuite planning and budgeting, probably a good example, right? Like you've added that on sort of post the ERP rollout and, it's got AI across the sort of thing. Talk to me about the benefits and how you found that piece.
Yeah, so NetSuite Planning and Budgeting, we just went live with that for the FY26 budgeting period. We were sort of a little bit behind the 8 ball because we started a bit late with its implementation and only got released, I think, in Australia, was it, I don't know, March this year or something. So we were building the aeroplane in the sky as we were flying. But the beautiful thing about NSPB is it's got this little functionality that says, hey Dee, site A did X amount over the last 6 months for all of its operating expenditures. Do you want to use this as its forecast for 26? Do you want to add 5%, drop 5%, keep it the same? So it already gave us this kind of the thinking, I guess, behind the forecast. So we started with that and said, well, if site A spent this amount last year on electricity and cleaning and laundry and all these other things, why wouldn't we start there? It's not like they're going to fundamentally change the way that they clean, launder, and use power. So we started with that and said, well, what's happening economically around those 3 costs? Okay, let's factor in the CPI price rise and go from there. So for us, it already took out the way of thinking to commence with how we're going to budget this year. Now, previously, I would have to run, 31 different Excel files, pull out 31 P&Ls, work out an average, whether it was over 6 or 9 or 12 months, pop in the CPI increase, and that would be my start. Whereas NSPB is doing that for you. So we're only scratching the surface in NetSuite Planning and Budgeting around that sort of trend, scenario analysis, predictive AI, predictive forecasting. But from what we've seen already in this budgeting period, it is super powerful, like super powerful.
Yeah, amazing. And I guess it's good to see some of those processes are just starting to come alive and you see the benefits and the gains from those. Now, I'll probably jump the gun a little bit on the slides here, but I guess let's just go for the tips, right? So we're a business out there. Maybe some people are online or at that tipping point that Kieser was. Maybe it's size, maybe it's complexity. Who knows? But what advice would you give? We're going from a smaller finance platform or a legacy ERP, and we're looking to go to the next level.
I would not hesitate in moving sooner than later. So I look back and I wish we had have done it when we were 15 Xero files and 200 staff and 7 people in head office. Why? It just would have been a lot easier to migrate, I guess, that many files as opposed to 27. But also, I think the efficiencies that we've gotten out of moving from Xero to NetSuite have far outweighed what we thought it would be. So I think, unfortunately, finance teams, they eat last, and because we're the gatekeepers of cost, we're constantly watching where the dollar goes. So we invested in areas that develop, sales. So we invest in sales and BD and marketing, and, finance really does eat last. It's very, very few and far between where a CFO puts their hand up and says, hey, I need X, X dollars to do Y, because, they're the CFO. So I think, my advice to businesses is put your business case together, work out what the cost of not doing it is. We always get concerned about it's going to cost X and it's going to, be an implementation and a one-off. We get so fixated on that implementation cost and the software cost that we forget about. If you don't do it, what's going to happen? So put that business case together, do your math, do it sooner rather than later, and invest in the tech, because otherwise finance is just going to lag behind, and you're one of the key people that need to support the business in its growth. You provide the numbers, you give the business the support, you're the navigator of strategy, and you just need to help the business, feed them information to help them make the right business decisions. And, I think to my point earlier, our bookkeepers are analysing sales and labour and OPEX and profitability on day 1 and day 2 of month end, which, if there's an issue there, they can highlight that to regional leads sooner rather than later, and they can make decisions faster. So that in itself is ultimately leading to better decision making. So I think that would be my first piece of advice, is don't wait and invest in the tech. The second piece of advice is make sure you choose the right implementation partner. I had only been through one ERP transformation in the past, and the one thing I learned from that ERP transformation was, if you've got the right business partner on board and the right systems implementation partner on board, it is the make or break of your system implementation. They need to be experienced. They need to be able to understand your business and convey that to the developers and to the tech team to go, this is Kieser's problem. How can NetSuite fix this problem? Because, I think for me, I'm not a tech expert, and I think CFOs are expected to be experts at everything. I'm not. I rely on people like Annexa to come to the table with the right product at the right time, with the right partners to give me the solution that I'm looking for Kieser. So I think really, really choose your implementation partner carefully. Grab their capability statements, understand who they have done, speak to their clients, and really just get into that embedded ecosystem to understand, are they the right one for you?
Appreciate the kind words, obviously. But yeah, I think, you guys came to us at the right time of growth, and, even the tech knowledge side, just being able to portray what your requirements are and what you're trying to achieve and the values behind it, it certainly helps us sort of take you to that next level, which, we've got a strong partnership going now. Before we jump into Q&A, maybe just a little bit on the horizon. So, from a tech point of view, or any exciting announcements for the Kieser world, to walk us through that.
Yeah, I think so. From a strategy and an operations perspective, the business is, really has a solid, strong growth, profile that they want to open sort of somewhere between 3 to 5 clinics per annum. Our goal is to reach as many Australians as possible. So we want everyday Australians to do strength training. That's ultimately the goal that we've got at the clinical level. What does that mean for finance? So we need to keep up with that. We need to make sure the business is supported with numbers and insights into, all of that to enable the business to grow. We've still got a little bit of work to do regarding NSPB. Like I said, we built the plane as we were flying. So we did our first year with NSPB, which was unbelievable, but we're polishing the diamond as we speak. So we're really playing with what can we get more out of that system. So I use this analogy in Sydney. I said, it's like I've been handed the keys to the Maserati, but I don't actually know how to drive it, how fast it can go, what highway I need to head down. It really is. I open up the engine and I go, I don't really know what's going on. So I know that system has got more power in it than we realise. So I really want to start to finesse and pull out of that system a bit more. We're in the middle of implementing NSAR at the moment. For all those auditors in the room, NetSuite account reconciliation will take away all the Excel rec files and build that into NetSuite, which so makes sense. It doesn't make sense for us to run 31 reconciliation files. We're going to have a play with AI and its functionality as NetSuite keep releasing that, and as NetSuite Planning and Budgeting keeps releasing that. To be honest, after we get through NSAR, NSPB over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, I think we'll probably take a little bit of a step back. I think that, project and implementation fatigue is very real. And I think you know, as much as Nat Ryan's pretty amazing, I think she needs a break as project manager. So I think I don't want to overload the team like too much more over the next few years, because I think the team just need a little bit of a break and get back to business as usual.
Yeah.
And really, like I said, just finesse that sort of extra 10 to 20% of what can come out of the system. So,
Take the
and
time.
who knows? I mean, yeah,
Yep.
and who knows? NetSuite's constantly releasing products, and I can't help myself. I'm like, I want that, and you know, let's do that. And that's when Nat pulls me back in and says, "Hang on a minute, you know, let's finish off NSPB first, and let's finish off NSAR." So I think I get excited by product releases, because I just think if I can eliminate Excel spreadsheets in my finance team, I would.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know, such an amazing story from what we've gone through. All right, well, I think we're about at the time now where we just want to open it up for a bit of Q&A. I will check the chat and see what we've got come through here. The first one's probably the most common one, and I'm sure you've asked this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
How long? You know, how long does it take to, you know, move from Xero to NetSuite? Obviously, you've been constantly refining things, but how long's that first switch?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we came to you guys around January, February, and that's when we started the scope of, hey, what do you need? What are your problems? What are your challenges? And we went live 1 November, I believe. So it was, around a 9 to 10 month sort of time frame that we had from literally let's go and meet with Annexa to switching on the lights with NetSuite. We didn't do it, as you know, like piece by piece. It was literally switch off one system and go on to the next. So, you know, we reconciled 31 October like it was a hard close. It was like a year end. And the team were kind of locked out of the system for about a week while we sort of migrated the data over, and then it was right, let's go. I don't think you can do it. Maybe you can do it in a quicker time period, but we had a lot of moving pieces. We had a custom CRM. We had a team of, 7 or 8 people we needed to train. We had 27 different Xero files we needed to migrate out of, and we wanted to do it properly. So we enabled ourselves to have a fair amount of time. I think the other thing is too that we did this alongside BAU. So I didn't have the luxury of a project team that could just work on this full time. Yeah. So the team did this alongside their day-to-day, and throw year end in there and a budget period in there. It was already, a stretch for us over a 9-month, 10-month period to get there. So I think, 9 months, 10 months was around the time it took us to go get onto NetSuite.
Yeah, and I think that's probably, for the audience, the piece you've got to factor in is the initial conversations that you have. You want to make the right decision and pick the right partner and pick the right product. So
yes,
you can't sort of take away from just doing the work to the initial analysis piece.
No, and I think involving the team in the project actually was a good thing, because they became the end users as well. So because they helped design it, they then actually helped, test it along the way and go through training. It's not like they walked in on day one and went, oh gosh, what is this thing? So we actually involved the bookkeepers in building the bookkeeping and the bank rec modules. And we actually involved the accountants in the piece around, reporting and what do you need and how do you want intercompany to work? So they were part of the solution piece. And I actually think that they understand that system probably better than I do nowadays, because they've actually worked with you guys in building it. So they understand how it hangs together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you got to let them go on the journey with you.
Correct. Yeah.
One of the other ones that I've got here, again, a pretty common one that we get. So what areas have you been able to automate to save time for the team? Obviously there's a lot of automation going on, but maybe some of those key pieces for yourselves.
Yeah, I think it's probably around, there's 3 things that come to my mind. One is that multi-entity intercompany transactions, that's all happening. So a lot of that just happens seamlessly and automatically now. So our team are not sitting there for 5 hours a day, coding in invoices and posting them off and paying them off. That's just not a big part of what we do anymore. The second thing I think is the use of Zone and Co. So I think, that automation of reading our accounts payable invoices, the team are able to just jump in and, check the code, check the GST, and really send that off to accounts payable really fast. And I think the third one is definitely around the reporting piece. So, it's all in one system. So if I need a report across all 31 clinics, budget versus actual year-to-date trending, by state, by region, anything of that sort, it is literally the click of 3 seconds. And this is how sort of powerful NSPB is. I gave we worked with Esprom, as you know, on the implementation of that. And I gave them our board reports, our exec reports, and our management reports. And I said, are you guys able to build this in NSPB? And I literally just produce I literally push a button and I have my management report available. And I don't know how many times I think I said over the couple of years, oh my gosh, I'm going to be like, I'm not needed anymore. Like, I don't think you need me because my job's kind of like gone. I don't need to produce reports anymore because the system does it for me. So I think, that just enables us to focus on other stuff. So the team are forward looking, they're working on scenarios and labor analysis and cost analysis and all that really cool strategic stuff. They're not buried in manual input.
Yeah, love it. I think you've nailed it there. One other one I was going to ask, how important is that switch from having to rely on, say, your technical team reviewing the errors between an integration or just understanding, the flow of data there?
Yeah, that one was a really big one for us. So when things started to break and fall down between the front end system and the back end system, finance really couldn't do much. So we didn't have this middleware in the system to go, oh, I wonder why those invoices haven't come in. We would literally walk in and go, what happened to sales overnight? Like, we can't wreck bank accounts because literally nothing has come through from the front end. Yeah. We would tie up the tech team sometimes for days, and sometimes over a month, weeks, trying to fix problems. And it did get to a bit of a crisis point. Like I said, we actually started to have to manually book sales into Xero. We just could not get data through. We tried for a few months, I'll be honest with you, trying to fix the flow of information coming through, but we just could not seem to get any resolution. So, and the tech team had better things to do. They're building Logic Plus and developing and trying to build a better clinical software product rather than worrying about why did finance get their data overnight. So for me, I just was like, I actually felt bad at the time pulling resources from IT going, you need to fix my problem, when they had more important things to do across operations. So that actually was a really big one for us. Soligo at the time, I remember thinking, how is Soligo going to, connect our custom CRM that's been built in-house, 15 years ago to NetSuite? Because, you hear a lot about, oh, no, we're not going to do custom APIs and that's just too hard to connect into your front custom CRM. It was seriously so seamless with Soligo. It just, nothing was too hard for them. And it was in fact, I look back and think it was actually not even a blip in our radar. Maybe it was a blip in NATS, I'm not sure, but it wasn't really a blip in the radar when we went through testing and customization. We haven't had sync issues to that magnitude at all. And as I said, Nat is able to log into Soligo. If something goes wrong, she's able to troubleshoot that herself. Now, it's pretty rare that Nat has to really go back to tech and ask them, hey, I can't resolve this one. So, not only did we free up finance's time, but we actually have freed up the tech team's time as well, because they're not sitting there fixing finance's broken links from Logic through to Xero.
Yeah. And I think, we've been implementing Soligo for a fair while now as well. And I think that's probably what we've found, that satisfaction that it's gone from this big technical hub of jobs and monitoring to now being such a front-end facing platform.
Yeah.
Very cool. I think we'll wrap it up there. There's no other questions that I can see in the chat. So Thank you everyone online for joining in. You know, huge thank you to yourself, Dee, and sharing the story. You know, if you are thinking of making the move and, you know, you are in that sort of tipping point and want to talk to anyone, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to us by email. You can go to our website. We'll send up a follow-up email on the back of this. We'll have the recording in there, so you can revisit anything that we went through. But, you know, have the great rest of your week. And thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Bart.
Bye all.